The NFL has just sided with the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk's ongoing drama, and the decision could completely derail his career. Unless he backs down, he'll stay off the field, won't get paid, and can't sign anywhere else. The question is, did the NFL really do this to him? Or did Aiyuk do it to himself? Let me break it down. Here's where things stand right now. Brandon Aiyuk is sitting on the San Francisco 49ers reserve left squad list, and under the league's own constitution, that classification means something brutal in plain English. He's treated as retired. Players on reserve left squad are deemed retired. According to the NFL Constitution and bylaws, and a retired player must apply to the commissioner for reinstatement, where his last team retains his contractual rights. That's not a 49ers policy. That's league law, and Aiyuk has publicly refused to touch it. On July 7th, he posted the words himself on Instagram. No ambiguity at all. I will not be reinstating with them, nor ever doing any kind of business with them. Aiyuk wrote, "I'm locked in and focused on my opportunity to return to the field this season." But that second sentence doesn't line up with the first one, because reinstatement is the only mechanism that lets him return to a field anywhere. Think about what that actually means in practice. By declining to pursue reinstatement, Aiyuk effectively accepts placement on the left squad list, a rarely used designation that allows the 49ers to retain his contractual rights without counting him against the active roster, and he also forfeits his salary during this period. No pay, no roster spot, no path to another team unless San Francisco trades him or lets him go, and they've shown zero urgency to do either. Training camp opened for the 2026 season, and reporters went straight to General Manager John Lynch for an update. What they got back was about as cold as a front office statement can get, without naming a player at all. Aiyuk has requested a trade or release, and as the 2026 season approaches with training camp officially underway, Aiyuk isn't even on the 90-man roster, Lynch revealed. Not on the roster, not in the building, not part of the conversation. Lynch didn't dress it up. "I'm personally, and we as an organization, are going to focus on the players who are here." Lynch said, "We wish him well. We wish his family well." That's the kind of language teams use when they've already moved on internally. Polite, distant, final. Kyle Shanahan's reaction carries even more weight, because Shanahan is the one guy in that building who fought hardest to keep Aiyuk in the first place. This wasn't a coach who wanted him gone, and yet, when asked about the relationship this offseason, Shanahan didn't sugarcoat how strange it had gotten. Shanahan said he hadn't seen Aiyuk in forever, and that Aiyuk had been extremely distant. Not angry, not combative, just gone. And it's not only the coaching staff noticing it. George Kittle, Aiyuk's own teammate, someone who shared a locker room and a receiving core with him for years, said basically the same thing when reporters asked him directly. George Kittle relayed similar sentiments about Aiyuk's absence and distance from the team. When your coach and your teammate are independently describing you the same way, that's not a misunderstanding. That's a pattern. So here's the trap closing around him. The rule says apply for reinstatement, and the 49ers are likely forced to make a football decision about you, keep you, trade you, or release you into free agency where, per the agent side breakdown of his situation, the 49ers wouldn't have wanted to be on the hook for $26.15 million of his $27 million 2026 salary. If he got hurt on their watch and had Aiyuk applied for reinstatement, he probably would be with another team, eager to prove there aren't any ill effects from tearing his ACL, MCL, and meniscus. Instead, Aiyuk chose the other path. He spent his time posting videos and messages on social media, rather than taking constructive steps to accelerate his departure from the 49ers, and it's believed he still hasn't started the reinstatement process. The league's rule didn't create this mess. It just refuses to bail him out of it. And that's the part that makes this decision feel so brutal. The NFL isn't punishing Aiyuk with some special ruling made just for him. It's simply applying the standard bylaw, the same one that's applied to every reserve left squad player before him, and letting the consequences land exactly where they land. No pay, no games, no movement. Just a receiver who was, not that long ago, one of the most dangerous route runners in football, frozen by a piece of paperwork he refuses to sign. To understand how a $120 million receiver ended up here, you have to go back to where this entire saga actually started, long before any voided guarantees. Long before any Instagram posts, back to the contract fight that first put a crack in this relationship. Brandon Aiyuk was San Francisco's first-round pick in 2020, and for years he looked like exactly the value pick the front office wanted, a 2020 first-round pick by the 49ers. Aiyuk was a sturdy contributor in San Francisco from the start, then broke out in 2022 with his first 1,000-yard receiving season, amassing 1,015 yards and 8 touchdowns on a career-high 78 receptions. The following year was even better. In 2023, he had 75 catches for 1,342 yards and 7 scores, after which he engaged in a contentious offseason of negotiating for an extension that included a trade request, a deal to the Pittsburgh Steelers falling through, and a hold-in that persisted throughout the 2024 preseason. That trade request wasn't some throwaway threat either. It was formal, and it was real. After an offseason of contract negotiations that had yet to yield a lucrative extension, Aiyuk officially requested a trade, according to league sources. He wanted to be paid like the other top receivers of his era, guys landing extensions that changed the market. With 1 year remaining on his rookie contract, Aiyuk had been seeking a big money extension in line with those of other wideouts who earned deals that offseason, such as A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Jalen Waddle. San Francisco initially held firm. Other teams that reached out to the 49ers about a trade were told the team had no intention of trading him. Behind the scenes, according to later reporting, the front office actually wanted the opposite of what eventually happened. The front office felt Aiyuk's price tag was too expensive and wanted to trade him, not extend him, back in 2024. But Aiyuk vetoed trades to the Browns and Patriots, and Kyle Shanahan insisted the team keep him. So the front office gave in to their coach. The front office acquiesced to Shanahan and gave Aiyuk a 4-year, $120 million contract, with $45 million guaranteed at signing. It didn't take long for buyer's remorse to creep back in. After Aiyuk signed his extension and before he injured his knee, the front office had already decided that it would trade Aiyuk after the 2024 season. The 49ers had instant buyer's remorse. Then, 7 games into that very season, everything changed. Aiyuk went down with a devastating knee injury that would end up defining the rest of this saga. Aiyuk hasn't returned to action since tearing the ACL, MCL, and meniscus in his right knee 7 games into the 2024 season. With him hurt and sidelined, San Francisco tried to move him anyway. The 49ers tried to trade Aiyuk this past offseason when he was injured, so they could avoid paying him a $22.855 million option bonus. But teams weren't interested, and when asked at the NFL Combine if the 49ers were shopping Aiyuk, general manager John Lynch didn't say no. He said the team has a difficult financial situation it must address. No takers on an injured $120 million receiver. So he stayed technically on paper, while everything else quietly fell apart. This is where the Rehab disputes start, and they're the hinge this entire story turns on. San Francisco says Aiyuk didn't do what the contract required of him during recovery. The 49ers reportedly voided the guarantees in response to Aiyuk missing meetings and declining to participate in other team activities the past couple months. While he finished up his rehab from the ACL and MCL tears he sustained the previous October. Shanahan confirmed the move publicly, but wouldn't get specific about the trigger. Shanahan confirmed the voiding of the guarantees during a press conference, but didn't pinpoint what conduct triggered it, saying it takes a lot of things to get a contract voided. I've never dealt with that in my career and been in any building that's had that. ESPN's reporting filled in some of the blank. ESPN's Nick Wagoner reported the 49ers had voided a 2026 option bonus worth $24.935 million because Aiyuk had not been meeting the requirements of that deal. And ESPN's Jeremy Fowler added that an issue was believed to be Aiyuk's failure to show up for rehab appointments during the offseason. The dollar figure attached to that decision is enormous, a number that instantly reframes the entire relationship. The Athletic reported San Francisco had voided the guaranteed money in his contract for 2026, a $24.935 million option bonus. Aiyuk tells a different version of the timeline, and it's the version he's repeated most aggressively. By July, the team had internally decided to void his guarantees, but the decision wasn't made public until November. His grievance isn't really about the voiding itself, it's about being kept in the dark about it for 4 months while the team, in his telling, kept saying publicly that he'd be back. He's accused the team of continuing to lie to the media and fan base, acting as if the decision hadn't been made months earlier, while continually saying he would be returning, despite him telling them on multiple occasions that he would not be. He also disputes the entire premise that he skipped rehab in the first place, pointing to tracking data he says contradicts the team's account. He's argued that they have footage and GPS information showing he reached markers he says he never actually hit. disputing the missed rehab justification a year after the guarantees were voided. Whichever version is accurate, the outcome was the same. In December, the 49ers placed him on the reserve left squad list, and Aiyuk has spent the time since trying to force the franchise to release him, to no avail. And by January, Lynch had already said the quiet part out loud in a way that left almost no room for interpretation. "I think it's safe to say he's played his last snap with the 49ers," Lynch told reporters. Shanahan's version of events that same month was arguably more damning because it wasn't about money or rehab logs at all. It was about basic communication breaking down completely. Shanahan told reporters that Aiyuk stopped answering anyone's phone calls, including the head coaches during the season, adding, "That's something I'd never seen in 22 years of coaching." 22 years in the league. And Shanahan had never seen a player go fully dark like that. That single detail is what turns this from a normal contract dispute into something the entire league started watching closely. Because if a player can just vanish and still keep his contractual leverage, that's a problem every front office in football suddenly has to think about. Once the guarantees were voided and the silence broke, Aiyuk didn't go quiet. He went nuclear on social media, and he didn't stop at the 49ers. He dragged in his own union next. He tagged the NFLPA directly, demanding they take another look at his case, and the tone wasn't polite. Aiyuk tagged the NFL Players Association and wrote, "Can I get a fresh set of eyes on this case? 'Cause the ones on it right now obviously sleeping on the job." That's not a player asking for help. That's a player publicly accusing his own protection agency of failing him. The strange part is that Aiyuk had the chance to fight this through the union and chose not to. There was no grievance filed on Aiyuk's behalf when the 49ers voided his future guarantees. Not because the NFLPA refused, because he told them not to bother. He didn't file a complaint with the NFLPA, but cut communication with the team's coaching staff and front office instead. Later reporting revealed his actual reasoning, and it's almost stranger than the silence itself. Aiyuk stated he did not appeal his case through the NFLPA because his goal was simply to play for the Washington Commanders. He apparently believed that skipping the fight over the money would clear a faster path out of San Francisco. Instead, it left him with no money and no new team. He kept firing at the union anyway, this time accusing them of turning on him. He has also previously criticized the NFLPA, including accusing the union of withholding information. NBC Sports later reported the specifics of that accusation. That after he told the union he didn't want to appeal, he claims they responded by trying to damage his name. Aiyuk creates the impression that after he told the NFLPA he didn't want to appeal because he would just play for the Commanders, the union decided to start a smear campaign and tarnish your NIL. The agent side analysis of all this doesn't let Aiyuk off easy. And it's worth hearing because it comes from someone who's negotiated these exact fights before. Aiyuk informed the NFLPA he didn't want to fight the voiding of his guarantees. And while he alleges the union engaged in a smear campaign against him, that's hard to believe. It's the NFLPA's job to protect players' rights, and the union will routinely file a grievance on behalf of a player when a team voids salary guarantees, including in cases where there isn't a great likelihood of prevailing. In other words, the union almost always fights, even in losing cases, because it deters teams from trying the same move again. Aiyuk is the one who told them to stand down. Then the target shifted to his own agent. Aiyuk blamed his former agent, Athletes First's Ryan Williams, for his problems with the 49ers during the latter part of June. There's a wrinkle here that makes the whole situation messier. Williams doesn't just represent Aiyuk. Williams also represents 49ers general manager John Lynch, having been Lynch's marketing agent during his playing career. Representing a player and a general manager on the same team can be viewed as a conflict of interest, though it's permissible under the NFLPA's agent regulations. Not long after the blame went public, Aiyuk fired him. Aiyuk reportedly fired his agent at some point during this drama, which could explain some of his behavior. Meanwhile, the Commanders' angle, the one destination Aiyuk kept pointing to as his escape hatch, kept collapsing in real time. He'd been dropping hints for months. He posted a photo of himself wearing a Washington Commanders hat, and Washington is quarterbacked by Jaden Daniels, who was teammates with Aiyuk at Arizona State. Washington had reason to listen too, given their receiver room. The Commanders already acquired one former 49ers receiver, Deebo Samuel, ahead of the 2025 season, And general manager Adam Peters spent 7 seasons in San Francisco's front office, present when the 49ers made Aiyuk a first-round pick in 2020. Then Aiyuk turned on Daniels, his own college teammate, the guy he'd once FaceTimed for support, in a public rant that torched whatever goodwill existed. He expressed interest in joining the Washington Commanders, but he seems to have burned that bridge when he called out quarterback Jaden Daniels in a rant. A former 49ers general manager watching from the outside had already warned Washington what they'd be signing up for. Former 49ers general manager Scott McLaughlin warned the Commanders about Aiyuk's conduct off the field, despite his elite talent. Even people close to Aiyuk are starting to sound the alarm publicly. TJ Houshmandzadeh, a former NFL receiver who knows him personally, gave a blunt outlook on a podcast about where this is heading if nothing changes. "I will probably say no, but once this season goes by and he's not on the team by November, he's going to get humbled, and now he's going to have to change if he wants to play," Houshmandzadeh said, a comment that carries weight because he and Aiyuk are close. That's the picture heading into the money fight. A player who's alienated his union, fired his agent, and burned the one team that seemed like a soft landing. And now it's about to get worse, because San Francisco isn't just sitting on his guarantees anymore. They're reportedly considering coming after money he's already been paid. This is where the story stops being about wounded pride and starts being about actual dollars. San Francisco might try to claw back out of Aiyuk's pocket, and the number involved is enough to make even his current situation look tame by comparison. Here's the setup. When Aiyuk signed his extension, it came with a massive upfront payment. The 49ers signed Aiyuk to a 4-year, $120 million extension with $76 million in guarantees in August 2024. Part of that was a signing bonus, and signing bonuses get spread out for salary cap purposes over the life of a deal. The team paid Aiyuk a $23 million signing bonus in 2024, which was amortized over 5 seasons against the cap at $4.6 million per year. Normally, that money is just gone once it's paid, sunk cost, non-recoverable. But there's a legal mechanism that changes that if a team can prove a player breached his contract, and NBC Sports first flagged San Francisco was exploring it. NBC Sports' Matt Maiocco recently reported the 49ers could seek to get more money back from Aiyuk by recouping parts of his $23 million signing bonus. Andrew Brandt, a former NFL front office executive who used to negotiate these exact contracts for the Green Bay Packers, laid out what that process would actually look like. If the 49ers try to recoup money from Aiyuk, the first step would be to file a grievance, and that would include proration calculations that add up to a potentially large amount. The math behind that potential number is staggering once you actually run it. His 2025 pay was roughly $24 million, and about 17% of the 2025 season remained when the 49ers placed him on the left squad list in Week 15. So the unearned seasons of his signing bonus, plus a portion of that remaining 2025 bonus and salary, could theoretically be up for grabs. Add it all together, and the total is one of the largest recoupment figures ever floated in an NFL contract dispute. The formula comes out to roughly $18.6 million, potentially eligible for the 49ers to recover. Even Brandt admits actually collecting that money would be a different fight entirely if Aiyuk doesn't voluntarily return the money. Even if an arbitrator rules in the 49ers' favor, enforcement would be tricky. An arbitration win on paper doesn't automatically put cash back in a team's bank account if the player simply refuses to pay it. What makes this whole scenario so unusual is the total communication blackout surrounding it. Front office veterans who've handled dozens of ugly separations say they've never seen anything like this. "I'd never had a situation where a player disappeared with no contact," Brandt said. And I'm talking no contact. Aiyuk, who abandoned the 49ers during the 2025 season, still hasn't contacted the team but has demanded his release via social media. There's also a defense being floated on Aiyuk's behalf, one that treats the whole voiding as legally shaky rather than an open and shut case. Contract voiding language is normally reserved for the most extreme defaults, and Aiyuk's specific clause isn't unique to him. The 49ers voided the $27 million in 2026 salary guarantees late last July, and contract guarantees are typically voided only for an exhaustive list of defaults by a player. Aiyuk has the exact same default language in his contract as All-Pro edge rusher Nick Bosa and Pro Bowl quarterback Brock Purdy. That comparison matters, because it means the 49ers use the same standard boilerplate clause every top player on the roster has. The question is just whether Aiyuk's conduct actually crossed the line written into it. San Francisco's cap situation gives them room to just let this whole thing rot without urgency, which is part of what makes the standoff so one-sided. The 49ers are in a decent position salary cap-wise to handle an off-season trade or a conventional release of Aiyuk, with nearly $274 million of 2026 cap commitments already on the books across 44 players under contract. They can afford to wait him out completely. He can't afford to wait them out at all. He's making $0 every week this drags on. There's a version of this that ends differently, and it involves the league office stepping in rather than letting the two sides bleed each other slowly. One outside prediction from the SI Niners beat laid out what forced intervention might look like. If the Niners reject Aiyuk's physical to put him on the NFI list, outsiders may intervene. The NFLPA filing a grievance with the league, arguing the Niners have no intention of ever playing him again. And the same piece predicted the standoff wouldn't end voluntarily. Neither Aiyuk nor the Niners will cave in this increasingly bitter standoff. The league either forces the Niners to cut Aiyuk and he signs with Washington, or they ask the Commanders to give up a late-round pick to the Niners to end it. The same analysis floated a simple counterfactual for how none of this needed to happen at all. All this drama could have been avoided if Kyle Shanahan let Aiyuk be traded to Pittsburgh. That trade never happened. And now, instead of suiting up in black and gold, Aiyuk is sitting on a list that pays him nothing, fighting a union that won't fight for him anymore, staring down a recoupment bill that could run into 8 figures, all while training camps open across the league without him. So where does all of this actually land for a guy who 2 years ago was catching passes from Brock Purdy in a Super Bowl offense? Right now, Aiyuk is 28, out of football, out of money, and almost entirely out of allies. In early June 2026, the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office issued a warrant for his arrest on a misdemeanor speeding charge, after a video surfaced of him driving well over triple digits near the team's own stadium. A detail that fed directly into the growing perception that things were spiraling beyond just a contract fight. He apologized for it afterward, but the timing made it impossible to separate from everything else unraveling around him. The Commander's door, which once looked like his most realistic soft landing, appears shut for now. Washington still has an obvious need at receiver, with their top target aging and banged up. Peters could look at the gap the Commanders currently have across from Terry McLaurin, a 30-year-old receiver who played just 10 games in 2025. But need alone hasn't been enough to overcome what Aiyuk himself did to that relationship. And there's no real sign Washington's front office has warmed back up. There is no indication the Commanders are interested in signing him, especially following his recent string of bizarre social media behavior. The most jarring number in the entire saga might be the simplest one. Not the millions voided, not the millions the team might try to recoup. Just the games played. Aiyuk's likely departure from the 49ers means he will have played just 7 games after signing a 4-year, $120 million extension, logging just 25 catches for 374 yards across that action, after posting 1,000-yard seasons in 2022 and 2023, and earning an All-Pro second-team nod in the latter. 7 games. That's the entire return on a 9-figure investment for both sides. And yet San Francisco has quietly moved on without much public hand-wringing about it. Lynch's comments at camp made clear there's no active urgency from the building to resolve any of it. Aiyuk has continued to request a trade or release, remaining very active, at times overly active, on social media, while expressing his frustration publicly, but there has been no real progress toward a resolution that would allow him to return to the field. Aiyuk, for his part, still insists he's not done, still frames this as a fight he's going to win on principle. "I will not be reinstating with them, nor ever doing any kind of business with them," he wrote. "I'm locked in and focused on my opportunity to return to the field this season." But the mechanism that would actually get him back onto a field sits untouched, and every week that passes without him touching it is another week the league's own rule does exactly what it was written to do: hold the line. No exceptions, no matter how loud the player posting from the outside gets. There's a reading of all this where Aiyuk isn't fighting the system so much as betting against it, gambling that public pressure eventually forces San Francisco's hand before he ever has to file that paperwork. It hasn't worked yet. Camp opened without him. The roster moved on without him. And the one voice inside his own circle who might reach him is already warning that time is the one thing not on his side. Hosmanzade's prediction still hangs over the whole situation, that somewhere around November, With no team and no games and no paycheck, reality finally forces a change nobody else has been able to force from the outside. Until that happens, the league's answer to Brandon Aiyuk stays exactly the same as it's been for months now. The door is open. It always has been. And it just requires him to walk through it. He hasn't yet. And every day he doesn't. The decision the NFL made a long time ago, that the rules apply to him just like they apply to everybody else. Keep standing, untouched, unchallenged, and unmoved.